And could you tell us a little bit about your eye, the hit, if it affected you, how it affected you, and through the rest of the game?
This is inexcusable, and J Carrington needs to be suspended for Game 2.
So here we go again, back with another one. Welcome back to the Dark Times channel. And today we're going to dive into one of the most talked about moments in recent women's basketball. We got to talk about Eye-Gate. And right now there's an ongoing debate on whether or not Caitlin Clark has a reputation for stuff like this.
This is just certified GOAT behavior. You're a little bit upset because the opposing team is storming the floor after beating you. What do? You flop. We're going to get a slow motion shot here. I mean, watch the WWE reaction here. The head goes back 4 or 5 seconds after contact is made. The arms go flailing. The collapse after. This is straight out of LeBron WWE material right here. And I get it. Caitlin Clark can do no wrong. She's a great basketball player. But let's be honest here. This is a move out of frustration and just, I'm upset at the situation, I'm going to flop.
But here's earlier in the season, J Carrington mocking Caitlin Clark on the court, played a very physical game with her back then too. And look, does Caitlin Clark do some histrionics, some flopping, and perhaps I'm giving them this out on what happened yesterday. Perhaps if Caitlin Clark wasn't known as a flopper, the refs would have taken it more seriously when she got stabbed in the eye and fell to the court.
We all know that Caitlin Clark is one of the most talented players within the WNBA, no doubt about it. She's a leader. She's a baller. But aside from all that, she's a flopper. And Caitlin Clark definitely took a hit to the face. And you can clearly see her reaction. She's clutching her eye. You can see her grimacing. And so you can clearly see that she was poked in the eye, or at least around the eye. Because I don't think she was actually poked inside of the eye. I've been poked inside of the eye. And for anybody else who's listening that has been poked inside of the eye, you can tell that it wasn't on the inside of the eye. Because had it been on the inside of the eye, that eye would have been looking a lot different. It would have been runny. It would probably had a little bit of pus inside. Who knows? Like I said, I've been hit before inside the eye. It wasn't pretty. I didn't have a little knot underneath my eye. It was a lot worse than that. And so not to say it's nothing, but she wasn't hit on the inside of the eye. But these kinds of things happen, and they happen fast on the court. And so it's easy to overlook how hard these players are going at it. And so I'm not going to judge on whether or not it was done intentionally. Personally, I don't think it was. Somebody who played basketball, somebody who was a pretty good shot blocker, knows that when you're going up to contest the shot and things are happening that quick, the last thing you can think about, the last thing on your mind is trying to stab somebody in the eye with your finger, especially in a best-of-3 series. The last thing you want to do is send Caitlin Clark to the free throw line to get 3 free throws because you know she's going to knock him down. And so I don't think it was done on purpose, but that's just me. But besides from that, she likes to flop. She's been flopping her whole career. And I'm not saying that to demean her character. If you flop, you flop. There's a lot of players who flop these days. A lot of players within the NBA flop. The Steph Currys, the LeBrons, the James Hardens, the list goes on and on. Everybody flops. Or at the very least, everybody exaggerates the contact. But Caitlin Clark takes it to another level when it comes to this flopping.
Look, here's Caitlin Clark going, and Nicholson giving her an extracurricular two-hand shove.
And this is a perfect example of some of the dirty tactics, some like to call it veteran tactics, that Caitlin Clark uses. And this is back in college. Look at how Caitlin Clark grabs this girl's arm. She's literally grabbing her hand, grabbing her arm, trying to sell the contact, trying to make it seem like she's reaching in. Once she gets the whistle, she lets go. And the girl on the opposite team, being frustrated, she gives her a little shove. And then Caitlin Clark proceeds to sell it. And she sells it good. She's probably one of the best sellers I've ever seen, especially to be so young. She actually sells it like a veteran. If you don't watch it back in replay and you don't watch the slow motion and you're just watching it in real time, you would think that she got assaulted. And that leads me to this. This goes back to that incident when Kennedy Carter back earlier this year, in which she got a little shove from Kennedy Carter and she went falling. And we could see Angel Reese on the bench cheering for it a little bit. And people were wondering why.
Okay, so Caitlin Clark was playing in a game against, what's the name of the other team?
It doesn't even matter.
Okay, it doesn't Chicago,
matter.
thank you, Chicago. Let's show it. Show it again. So this girl comes up to her from behind.
The ball is nowhere near them.
Nowhere
so there's
near
an inbound
her.
pass about to come. Like, that makes no sense. If having watched and played basketball, it just makes no sense that you would do that. Like, maybe if there was a pick and you were coming around the pick, you might crash into somebody. That is just abject, blatant, I am trying to hurt that person. And imagine if she had blown out her knee right there.
Look at
That's it.
And it was her expressing her anger. That's what was happening there.
Yeah.
This wasn't play. This was, I'm angry with you and I'm going to assault you.
It is the great equalizer beyond anything else.
She's been in the WNBA for 2 minutes. There's no reason to hate her other than the amount of attention she's getting and her skin color. I mean, would this be happening to a black Caitlin Clark?
No.
Getting the same amount of attention?
Well, first off, if an angry white woman bashed into the black Caitlin Clark,
right,
Sonny would be going crazy and she'd be demanding she'd be kicked out of the league and everything else.
So now we know. Now we know, and a lot of players have been talking about this. Caitlin Clark does a lot of little dirty things on the court, and then when she gets her payback, she's the victim. She sells it like that. And the audience and the crowd and the media, they eat it up. It's everybody against Caitlin Clark. But she's got a history going back all the way to college of having these little flare-ups and incidents with the other teams, with opposing teams. She's got a history of it. And so when she came to the WNBA, it was no different. We're starting to see those same dust-ups and flare-ups. And it's always everybody else's fault, and Caitlin Clark is the victim. But I will say this. Eyegate and this little eye poke incident, it's the best thing that could have happened to Caitlin Clark. Because nobody's talking about the game that she had.
Been going at it all season long, but you put DeWanna Bonner, who is 6'4", she's got great reach to chase Caitlin Clark around, to contest Caitlin Clark's shots, to start the game. Caitlin against DeWanna was 0 of 4 from the field. And what is
Caitlin, could you tell us a little bit about your eye, the head, if it affected you, how it affected you, and through the rest of the game? Thanks.
Yeah, obviously got me pretty good in the eye. I don't think it affected me, honestly.
Everybody's already given her excuses when she has a history in big games of disappearing when the games matter. When the game slows down, when you can't play with that same pace that you're used to playing at. And it's the same problem that Steve Nash used to have in the playoffs. It's the same problem that James Harden used to have in the playoffs. Because of the pace of the game in the playoffs, Caitlin Clark's not going to be able to get the same kind of shots. She's not going to be able to get her teammates these easy transition baskets because teams are paying attention to detail. And that's the difference between the playoffs and the regular season. And that's what I've been trying to tell people all year. I'm not trying to say that Caitlin Clark isn't great in her own right, but she's cut from the same cloth as a Steve Nash and as a James Harden. That style of play doesn't necessarily translate to the postseason. She may have good games here and there, but it's going to be hard for her to be consistent with that same style of play that she's used to playing in the regular season. And mainly for the reason that I laid out. The pace of play, the attention to detail, it's not the same. But what do y'all think? Was the eye poke a real injury? Or was there some acting involved? But go ahead and let me know what y'all think in the comment section. Is she just playing the game, or is this time for her to cut down on the flops? And before you guys leave, make sure you guys go ahead and hit that like button for me and the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And make sure that all your notifications are turned on so you don't miss a thing. And as usual, peace and chaos.